French President Emmanuel Macron meets with Xi Jinping again in Guangzhou. Beijing imposes sanctions on Taiwan official following Tsai Ing-wen's U.S. visit. Many Hong Kong residents keen to leave town for Easter holidays. Hello and happy Easter. French President Emmanuel Macron traveled south to Guangzhou today after meetings with President Xi Jinping in Beijing yesterday. It's the final day of Macron's China trip. Having met with more than 1,000 university students, Macron was received by President Xi again in the southern city and is set to have an informal meeting tonight. Jackie Lin reports.
On the last leg of his state visit to the mainland, French President Emmanuel Macron has arrived in Guangzhou from Beijing.
Bonjour. Bonjour à tous.
After greeting more than 1,000 students in French, Macron said hello everyone in both Mandarin and Cantonese. This came after yesterday's highly anticipated meetings in Beijing. In trilateral talks between President Xi Jinping, French President Emmanuel Macron, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, the Russia-Ukraine issues remain front and center. Xi said China's stance has been consistent to promote peace, but there's no silver bullet to resolve the crisis, and different sides have to build trust to create conditions for peace talks. Xi also stressed nuclear or bioweapons should not be used under any circumstances. Reuters cited French diplomatic sources saying that Xi is ready to speak with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Macron meanwhile urged Xi not to provide weapons to Russia, with Xi replying, this was not his war. Von der Leyen also underscored the importance of maintaining EU-China ties.
The European Union and China today have extensive and complex relations. How we manage these relations will be a determining factor for our future economic prosperity. This is why I do not see decoupling from China as a viable or desirable.
Macron is accompanied by a 50-strong business delegation comprising Airbus, luxury giant LVMH, and nuclear energy producer EDF in a 3-day visit. Multiple deals have been struck, including a jet order from China to buy 160 Airbus aircraft and a new Airbus assembly line to be opened in China. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Beijing has imposed new sanctions on Xiaobi Kim, Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States, following this week's visit to the U.S. by Taiwanese leader Tsai Ing-wen. Beijing has also taken countermeasures against 2 U.S. institutions that provided a platform for Tsai. Tracy Furness has more.
Beijing announced sanctions Friday against Xiaobi Kim, seen here on the right, prohibiting her and her family members from entering the mainland, Hong Kong and Macau. The sanctions come after Taiwanese leader Tsai Ing-wen's meeting with U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy during a stopover in the United States this week. The sanctions were announced by Beijing's Taiwan Affairs Office, which also banned investors and companies related to Xiao from cooperating with mainland organizations and individuals. Last August, Beijing imposed sanctions on Xiao and 6 others for facilitating former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Beijing's Foreign Affairs spokesperson said Tsai's visit to the U.S. seriously contravened the One China principle, gravely undermined China's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and sent wrong signals to the Taiwan independent separatist forces. The Foreign Ministry also announced steps against U.S. institutions, including the Hudson Institute and the Reagan Library, as well as their heads, as they provided a platform for Tsai's separatist activities. Beijing has restricted universities, institutions, and other organizations and individuals in the country from engaging and cooperating with both institutions and their leaders. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Former Taiwan leader Ma Ying-jeou has concluded his 12-day visit to the mainland and returned to Taiwan. Director of the Taiwan Affairs Office, Song Tao, held a farewell banquet for Ma on his last night on the mainland. Song told Ma that they were all Chinese, and any issues within the family should be handled internally, and any foreign interference intended to foment separatist activities is doomed to fail. Echoing the sentiment, Ma called for the resumption of cross-strait exchanges and avoidance of conflicts. Ma said through this trip, he understands the importance of cherishing the 1992 consensus in which the Kuomintang and China Communist Party agree there is only one China, but both sides define China differently. In the trip, Ma visited Shanghai, Nanjing, Wuhan, Changsha, and Chongqing. And on the first day of the Easter holidays, more than 350,000 people had crossed the border via different checkpoints by 4 p.m. At the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge checkpoint, tourists had to queue for an hour to board shuttle buses, with the Transport Department reminding the public to allow sufficient time for traffic. Mimo Singai reports.
預計輪候乘搭金巴時間將超過1小時。
This was the scene at the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge port earlier today. To get on board the shuttle buses, passengers will first have to go through immigration procedures before buying bus tickets at self-service counters. Each step required individuals to queue. This man said it is unacceptable that people have to wait for such a long time, saying tickets should be allowed to be purchased online. Not all people went to Macau for leisure. Some had to work, like this man. He said he traveled to Macau via this port yesterday. It was also packed with people, so he will be late for work again today. Suitcases, carrier bags, and lots of travelers. A similar scene also occurred at the Luohu port. After a 3-year border closure, many residents wanted to travel to the mainland to spend their holidays. For instance, this woman planned to visit different mainland places, including Huizhou and Changping. She said she was excited. While the checkpoint is buzzing, the nearby Luohu Commercial City shopping mall has not attracted a lot of business. Some shop owners said most people simply walk past and window shop. They hope the mall can offer some discounts to tourists and encourage them to spend. Mimo Sanai, TVB News.
And the airport was packed with holiday makers today. Many residents are looking forward to traveling, as this is the first long holiday since all COVID restrictions were lifted. Sakura Ip was at the airport.
Ready to board. The airport was packed with residents this morning as the Easter holidays began. Long queues were seen at the departure hall. Although another public holiday, Qingming Festival, took place just 2 days ago, some citizens saved their trip to today. Mrs. Lee was traveling to Japan with her family. Her daughter couldn't wait to visit Disneyland and have udon noodles on her first trip to Japan. Mr. Shum said there was a 20 to 30% price hike for tours to Japan when compared to pre-COVID times. He said it's acceptable since he missed traveling a lot during the pandemic. Knowing the expected long waiting hours at Japan's border, the tour guide helped travelers with online registration before checking in. He also prepared the required hard copy forms as another option to speed up the procedure. Apart from Japan, Southeast Asia is a popular choice for a sunny vacation. This family is going to stay 6 nights in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Well, we're really excited to go. I think the kids have kind of forgotten all about checking in and, flying. They're really excited to go on a plane and actually sit down and, kind of pack their bags. They were packing it last, 3 days, in and out. Packing things, unpacking. I just want to have fun. I want to have, we just want to go and see some elephants, and we just want to be together as a family. I feel like COVID was really stressful for all of us.
Miss Lai, a mother with 3 children, decided to spend their first family trip in 3 years in the Philippines. As they travel with their domestic helper who hasn't set foot in her hometown since the pandemic began. This is the first long holiday after all the COVID restrictions lifted. Some airport staff are assigned to assist tourists to do self-check-in at the smart check-in kiosk to minimize their waiting time. Sakrib, TVB News.
Chief Executive John Lee jogged along the Wan Chai and Causeway Bay Promenade on the first day of the Easter holiday. This video shows the chief executive and his colleagues jogging along the Central and Western District Promenade earlier today. Lee also stopped to chat with residents, and he also took a break at a restaurant and ordered a drink. Some residents shared food with him. The owner of the restaurant said he was pleased to see Lee.
I'm very happy to see him. I hope he will do a lot for Hong Kong. It is very, very encouraging for the government to do a lot of works and promote harbour and promenade. I think this is a good place for people in Hong Kong as well as tourists. I would say with more tourists coming over, this place will be one of the icons in Hong Kong.
Coming up, iconic Parisian restaurant on fire as protest against pension reform continues. Over 1 million people in Canada are without power after damage by storm. City's religious groups hold assemblies on Good Friday. Welcome back. There were more protests against Emmanuel Macron's pension reform in France. Government figures suggest the number of people taking to the streets may have fallen slightly, but those who protested seemed as determined as ever to try to stop Macron's reform. David Garrett reports.
Another day of planned strikes and protests in France. The spontaneous burning of objects and violent scenes had mostly been confined to night. That may be changing. More disruption in daylight hours. As crowds jeer police for trying to break them up, the feeling in France is much the same. The Interior Ministry deployed nearly 12,000 officers nationwide after talks to avert all this collapsed. Demonstrations are largely peaceful, but punctured with unrest. Fires on the ground and tear gas in the Paris air. Another part of the capital, another skirmish. A restaurant is set ablaze. President Emmanuel Macron's drive to push the retirement age up to 64 is still facing fierce resistance. La Rotonde is well known to Parisians and tourists. Windows were smashed and the famous red awning of the chic venue set on fire. The flames were extinguished by firefighters. Why was this cafe chosen? Macron celebrated winning the first round of the 2017 elections right here. The official number of those taking to the streets nationwide was put at just over 500,000. Unions say it was closer to 2 million. The newly elected CGT Union Secretary General Sophie Binet was continuing the aggressive rhetoric, as stats showed only 8% of teachers joined the picket lines. Binet said, "We cannot turn the page until the reform is withdrawn." Dozens of unionists set off firecrackers as they invaded this modern Paris office block in which investment firm BlackRock has a base. It underlined a more targeted approach to protests. The action in the historical Centurial building pinpointed BlackRock because of its private pension fund. David Garrett, TVB News.
In Canada, more than 1 million people were without power on Thursday after an ice storm hit 2 of the most populated provinces ahead of the Easter weekend. A fierce ice storm brought down trees, damaged vehicles, and cut off streets in Quebec and Ontario. The storm cut off power to half of Canada's population, with the worst hit area being Montreal. Over 1 million people did not have power in Quebec and 120,000 in Ontario. More than 1,100 workers were working on restoring power, but it may take days. People were warned they may have to spend Easter in the dark. Israel have launched airstrikes in the Gaza Strip and Lebanon. They are targeting Hamas in response to dozens of rockets fired into their territory. These pictures distributed by the IDF show the strikes on Gaza aimed at what were said to have been Hamas weapon production sites. This was the aftermath on the ground as the missiles left large craters. The strikes hit Gaza before dawn. Buildings and cars were damaged, but there were no reports of injuries. Tensions are high after Israeli police raids on the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem earlier this week. In the U.S., Republicans in control of the House of Representatives in Tennessee voted to expel 2 Democratic representatives. This is because they are considered to have broken rules while leading a gun control demonstration in the wake of recent school shootings. This report from NBC News.
Outrage tonight in Nashville in reaction to Republican-led efforts to expel 3 Democratic lawmakers from the state legislature.
I hereby declare Representative Justin Jones of the 57th Representative District expelled from the House of Representatives of the 113th Assembly of the State of Tennessee.
The 3 Democrats in question, State Representatives Justin Jones, Gloria Johnson, and Justin Pearson, were accused of disorderly behavior following their participation in a demonstration on the House floor last week.
We need action! We need action!
They joined advocates calling for stricter gun safety measures following the mass shooting at the Nashville private school that left 6 people dead on March 27th. Their chants with a bullhorn from the podium in the House well led to today's showdown.
We called for you all to ban assault weapons, and you respond with an assault on democracy.
While Tennessee's constitution allows for any member of the state legislature to be expelled with a 2/3 vote, it has only happened 3 times before. Demonstrators today filled the halls of the state capitol. But arguments from Democrats did little to sway the Republican supermajority.
This does not seem like America. To expel voices of opposition and dissent is a signal of authoritarianism, and it is very dangerous.
The Republican Speaker of the House says today's actions were about the rules.
They did break rules by going to the well and showing that they were at the well, they were speaking, they pulled out a bullhorn and ruled out an order before there was a recess.
But protesters here told us they felt today's vote was a distraction from the urgent issue of gun violence.
What's happening in Tennessee right now is abhorrent, and our legislators are not listening to what we are saying.
Back locally, today is Good Friday, and 5 religious bodies held Easter walks after getting letters of no objection. The police letter states that the number of participants should not exceed 100 and must be split into 2 groups. One, organized by St. Andrew's Church, started from the peak at 3 p.m. Participants had to wear a label with the name of the church, and masks were prohibited. Chief Executive John Lee paid a visit in February to the Middle East in a bid to boost economic ties between Hong Kong and the Arab world. But will his efforts also benefit existing local Arab businesses? Timothy Lee spoke with the Consul General of Egypt and some local Arab business owners living in Hong Kong to find out more.
A dedicated chef hard at work preparing a plate of hummus, a quintessential dish in the Arab world. Mo Sen, who runs an Egyptian restaurant with his family, is just one of many Arabs who now calls Hong Kong home.
I came in August 2001 after the visit of our governor. Hopefully we will affect our business, especially Middle Eastern food. And I have a big hope for that, to be honest. Because Hong Kong now really we need it, especially Arab always looking for halal food.
This beef kebab here is a popular dish enjoyed across the Arab world. Mawson says he wishes his food could bring the cultures of Hong Kong and Egypt closer together.
A new era of Sino-Arab cooperation has dawned as Beijing's influence in the Arab world continues its exponential growth, with the region serving as a key part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Chief Executive John Lee, who traveled to Riyadh and Abu Dhabi 2 months ago, was keen to explain to Middle Eastern leaders about Hong Kong's status as a conduit for investment in China's global developmental framework. But business relationships between China and the Arab world actually dates back to the 7th century, when Islamic merchants from Arabia and Persia made arduous journeys across both land and sea to ancient China for missionary work and trade. Today, the Arab world extends across much of West Asia and North Africa. The region is home to more than 400 million people, with close to a quarter of them living in Egypt. Egypt's Consul General to Hong Kong, Bahir Shaweki, is interested in facilitating closer ties with Hong Kong.
President al-Sisi has met His Excellency President Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, through on the sidelines of the China Arab Summit was held in Riyadh last December. They have agreed that we have to continue our good relationships between the two countries within the framework of the Belt and Road Initiative. Egypt nowadays is trying so hard to promote the tourism sector, and we are so happy and so we are so glad we started to receive Chinese tourists after the borders are open and all the measures of the pandemic were lifted. I look forward to organizing a business trip to Egypt here from Hong Kong. I think it will be a good opportunity just to explore the aspects of collaboration between Hong Kong and Egypt.
The Rosetta Stone is an ancient stele dating back to the 2nd century BC that recorded a royal decree in 3 different scripts: ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, Demotic, and Greek, and played a key role in deciphering the ancient Egyptian language. As both China and Egypt are among the oldest civilizations in recorded history, the Consul General wishes that both nations can further cooperate on their cultural fronts. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Happy Good Friday. Enjoy the Easter holidays. Bye for now.